Hey everyone, I'm Grant. This is a quick introductory tutorial to Wand, which is a tool that uses AI to flesh out your sketches. So in this case, I'm going to create a new project. I'm going to go with the transparent background option because we're just going to start off by drawing a little flower just to get the swing of things. So one key thing to note right off the bat is you want to color in what you draw. I mean, you don't have to, but if you don't, the AI is going to generally think that what you're trying to create is just sort of an outline based sketch. If you want it to flesh it out and turn it into something more detailed or more realistic or whatever, you're going to want to color it in. And generally, the goal of what we're doing here is to give artists as much control as possible. So we instead of a text to image thing where you might type in a sentence and get something that doesn't exactly match what you were imagining. In this case, you can draw something directly and it will fit that exact form, color, shading, and whatever else. So in this case, I'm just going to type in plant and just hit generate. And you'll notice the areas where I drew, they have this plasma glow to them. That indicates where the AI morph is going to get applied, basically. Okay, so you're already seeing its outputs are pretty good here. Maybe, this one's good. I like this. This was closer to what I was thinking. So going back to that artistic control thing I was talking about, this isn't a tool where you just make one sketch and it turns it into an image. We're trying to get something where it's much more iterative. So in this case, I'm going to draw the stem continuing to come out of this plant. And in this case, we'll draw the actual flower that's blooming. And when I draw this, it's only going to edit where I drew, which means that those leaves that we already created, which we like, are not going to be, the AI is not going to mess with those anymore, unless we specifically want it to. We could use the select tool to highlight them, which I'll show you the select tool more directly once I'm done drawing these flowers. And notice here that when I go to generate, I'm just going to type in flower, but notice that it was only where I drew again that was highlighted by the select tool. Okay, these look, I like that one. I think I'll go with that one. So let's look at the select tool a little bit more closely. It's similar to a traditional select tool, where wherever it's highlighted basically indicates where the AI is going to morph. So if I highlighted the rest of the plant, it would morph that area, but if I just tap that clear button in the bottom left corner, it'll remove the mask. When the mask is removed, it basically means that everything is selected. So let me now bring your attention to the other two things you see in this generation menu, which are the styles and the intensity slider. So styles are really an essential part of Wand. This is kind of the third component of what allows you to have a lot of control in this app. In short, you can actually teach the AI your own custom artistic style just by giving it a handful of images from your portfolio, and then it will actually flesh out everything you draw in a way that's consistent with how you would have ended up drawing it. And so once you create them, they appear in this bottom menu here. So we have a handful of ones that I've created. And then this intensity slider up here, this basically controls how much the AI is going to change what you give it. So on the low end of the spectrum, it'll just slightly edit things. We've been mostly morphing at like the middle to high end of the spectrum. Anyway, first I want to show you how styles work. So I'm going to tap the Cezanne style here, and then I'm just going to hit generate using the same prompt. In this case, it's going to take the flower and re-render it as if it's like in a Cezanne painting. So Cezanne, I'm mostly just using this as an example since most people are familiar with this style. But really what's cool is when you train it on your own work. So it's fleshed out to make something that's actually unique. But you can see this is working pretty well. These do look like the little flower details you might see in a Cezanne impressionistic painting. But now let me show you an example of a custom model. So I've been collaborating on this comic with an artist named Tai Poli, and we trained it on just this image right here, and then this other image. We've made a few models, but this is what we call like our environment model. So we'll try taking this flower and applying that model to it, which we have environment right there. And so what this is going to do is it'll make it look like it's like a, you know, a flower you might see in sort of a psychedelic comic book, like the one we're working on. So there you go. Very different from both the realistic and the Cezanne ones. Ooh, that one's actually, I'm pretty into this. So you can see you get a lot of control with Wand, not only over the structure with the drawing tool, but over the style as well. So now we're gonna try doing a quick landscape drawing here. I sped this up so that we don't have to sit here watching me draw. But in this tutorial, beyond just showing how you can create backgrounds and opaque images, I wanted to also show off just some of the more specific things you can do with the intensity tool. Most interestingly, I want to show what happens when you crank the intensity up really high. And it, instead of just adhering to the exact shapes and structures you give it, it'll actually remix the image to create something new, but still containing the same sort of concepts. Anyway, so I'm drawing a castle here, and then I think I'm gonna add a lake beneath the castle, and we'll maybe do like a sort of anime style for the initial thing. Let me just add some extra detail. So now I'll type in something like anime, castle atop, island, surrounded by lake, beautiful landscape scenery, nature. So if you added like a little bit more to your prompts, you know, the more you add, the better in many cases. Okay, so these look pretty good. Yeah, that's nice. One other thing I want to show off here is that the tool is iterative. So what I'm going to do here is, I like how it's doing the reflection in the water here. What I'm going to do here is take the one I like the most, which I'd say is maybe, this one's pretty good. I think I'm going to riff off of this one now. So when I press generate again, it bases the generation on whatever is currently on the screen. So it's no longer just basing it off of that initial drawing. And what I just did while I was saying that is I tried a few with higher intensity, a few with lower intensity. But you can see these are all a little bit closer to that one that I originally picked. They're all riffing off of that as the starting point. With that, these are really starting to do good with the reflection in the water. Oh, okay, this one I'm pretty into. Okay, so I think we can continue to just riff on this from here. See, so in this way you can basically converge on some idea where like a common technique in the app is, you know, maybe it doesn't give you a great output at first, but then if you find an output that is closest to what you want, and then you press generate a second time, it'll converge and get closer and closer. So this one's pretty good, in my opinion. But that bridge obviously makes no sense, or lack thereof. So I'm gonna draw a bridge here just to show how you can, again, same thing with transparent images versus landscape, opaque images. You can make edits to the details. In this case, I just did bridge castle as the prompt. And it'll give me a few different outputs. Let's see. Okay, that one's not that great. That one's pretty good. And so again, using the same technique here, I'm going to take this and I'm going to do a few more generations based off of that as the starting point. So hopefully these next ones will be even closer to what I want. Sometimes when you do this, you also want to decrease the intensity as you iterate and converge on something. With this one, I'm still open to it being pretty heavily remixed. But if it's getting closer and closer, you might want to lower that intensity a little bit. Let's see, that one's pretty good. Yeah, so let's go with that one. We could continue iterating on that, or even drop it into like Photoshop or something. Anyway, now we're going to showcase the remix feature, which is just what happens when you don't have a mask and you crank up the intensity, and you'll notice it turns purple. So what remix does is, like I said, it will actually completely change the composition of what you draw. The lower the intensity is, the closer it'll be to the original composition, but it won't adhere to the exact structure anymore. So you can see these, it's actually just taking the concept, all right, sort of anime themed castle overlooking a lake with a nice reflection in the water, and it's giving me a bunch of iterations on this. If I crank that up even further, the iterations will be even more sort of divergent from the original input. And again, we could also do the same sort of remixing concept. But now let's do something a little different. I want to go back to that environment style and say, okay, actually, this image is kind of inspiring me for a shot from that comic we're working on. And now I'm going to first lower the intensity back down to 60%. I have it here, or even I'm going to try a few that are even lower. So just to, because I like this specific composition. But then we can imagine doing some full remixes again in a second. Okay, so these are looking interesting. Let's wait for them all to load. Okay, so yeah, you can see it's in that psychedelic style we're going for, where everything is kind of blending into everything else, and it's very organic and much more heavy in the illustration style. So these were the higher strength ones. You can see it's even more intense, and ooh, this one's actually pretty cool. Okay, I think I'm gonna go with this one, and let's see what happens if we now remix this again. And the cool thing about the remix tool is, again, if you have a custom style chosen, it will remix it in that style. So even if the input image was like a car or something, it would, these are pretty cool. Even if the input image was a car or something, it would remix a car in a different position and in the style of this model. Okay. Anyway, these are all interesting. Let's pick one and refine it a little bit. They do all seem a little bit unfinished. Okay, let's do, let's do this one. All right, so what I'm gonna do here is add some water. I'm kind of imagining some waves crashing on the shore here. It's the real missing component. Let's add a little bit of froth in the water. Okay, and so I'll just do castle, rough waves crashing against the cliffs. We'll see how these come out. Ooh, nice. Ooh, it really got the sort of energy to the water. Oh, I kind of like this one, actually, that little rock. See, this one has more intensity, but this one kind of looks a little bit more real. Not as into this one. At the same time, this one does this cool thing with this arch in the rock. Anyway, I think this covers the main core things you can achieve with the tool. And so we're going to share a bunch of other tutorials that focus more on how to train a really good fine-tuned model and different use cases you can use this for. But this is the essence, and you can get, as I'm sure there are a lot of artists out there that are going to push this a lot further than what I'm demonstrating now. And so if you make something really cool, please send it along to us. We'd love to see it.